Well, the wait is finally over. The Charlotte Hornets have selected Brandon Miller, second overall, and ended out the first round by selecting Nick Smith Jr. from Arkansas as well. So in this video, I'm going to give you all my thoughts on these two selections, whether or not I think they're going to hit or miss, and whether they will make an immediate impact or an impact at all on the current roster of the Charlotte Hornets. And we're going to get into that right after this.
I'm from the foe. You dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe, as I am on my road to 2K, trying to make sure my channel is popping before next season starts. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to this review. Now I'm going to give you all my initial thoughts before I get into the individual players. So my initial thought is, although I am one of the people that was riding the Scoot Henderson bandwagon, was beating the drum for Scoot Henderson all the way up into the last moments of this draft before the pick was in, I do understand the direction that the Hornets have elected to go in. Now that I have seen the conclusion of the entire draft, Brandon Miller is deserving of this pick. He is a very capable player, and he in fact did improve the roster tremendously, almost instantly, the moment he was drafted, because as mentioned, he is one of the best, if not the best, college player that came out this year. Matter of fact, scratch that, he is the best college player in the draft this year, and that's why he was selected second overall. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is it's pretty much apparent that the Charlotte Hornets are not ran well enough to put up a smokescreen. Me and my delusional thinking, just like a lot of other Hornets people out there in Hornets Nation, we're thinking that this all the news and all of these reports about Brandon Miller being locked in at number 2 over the last couple of weeks could have just been a smokescreen. But as the Charlotte Hornets are not that well run of an organization up until this point, they are not actually capable of doing a smokescreen, so shame on us for believing that. But both of these picks, be it Brandon Miller and Nick Smith Jr., significantly improved this roster the moment they hit the court, whether it be a prolonged introduction into the regular roster or whether it be instant. I believe these guys are going to make an impact at some point during the rookie year. Well, Nick Smith specifically at some point. I think Brandon Miller is going to hit right off the top, but I do believe that they both have improved the roster overall. Now, the last thing I'm going to say before I get into the breakdowns or my thoughts of the players individually, the last thing I'm going to say is, if this Nick Smith Jr. Pick works out, it 1000% like justifies what Mitch Kupchak elected to do in last year's draft when he drafted Jalen Duren, traded him away just to get Mark Williams, who a lot of people thought, why would you do that when Jalen Duren was younger, seen as potentially a better prospect with a higher ceiling. Mark Williams turned out to be an absolute beast when the Hornets actually put him out there on the court. So if Nick Smith Jr. hits after getting this 27th pick for trading with Denver last year, Mitch Kupchak is actually going to look pretty good. So who would have thought? Now, now that that's being said, let's go ahead and I am going to give you all my thoughts on Brandon Miller, the 6'9", 200-pound wing from the University of Alabama. He is an absolute beast. If you look at his tape, if you look at any of his workouts, if you just look at anything about Brandon Miller's game, he is absolutely dominant, and he is what the NBA has been looking for. When you look at who are the majority of the superstars scattered throughout the NBA, you have your Jason Tatums, you have your Kawhis, your PGs, you have your lengthy two-way wings that can put the ball in the hole, can make plays, but can also be an impact player on the defensive side of the ball, and that is exactly what Brandon Miller will be able to bring immediately if he is coached up the right way. Now, exactly as I was saying, what exactly does he bring? He brings a reliable three-point shot from the wing position that the Hornets have desperately needed, a secondary ball handler that Terry Rozier has proven that he is not capable of being, that can initiate the offense and take some of the playmaking onus off of LaMelo Ball and allow him to go off ball, run, catch and shoot as he does so well. If you look into the numbers, he is one of the best catch and shoot players in the entire league, but without having having a secondary ball handler that can actually make plays and get it to him when he actually gets his way open off ball, he has not been able to display that for the world to see as much as Hornets fans would like. But with bringing in Brandon Miller, I believe that adds an added element similar to what a lot of people felt Scoot Henderson being a playmaker would allow LaMelo Ball to do. Just because Brandon Miller is taller, that does not mean that he does not possess somewhat of similar skills that will allow LaMelo Ball to play off ball in the same way that Scoot was. So I think that is one of the probably one of the leading factors that edged him out over Scoot Henderson. Is you can get some of the same things, but in a taller frame. This is a big man's game, so now why not go with the bigger man? Now, the second thing I want to address is he a day one starter? Well, yes. This is the Charlotte Hornets, and he is the second overall pick. This franchise is in no position to have a player come in to be needed to be a franchise cornerstone that could potentially be the guiding piece that will keep your already in place franchise cornerstone in place for a long time to come. You need this guy to make an impact, and you need him to make an impact instantly, especially with this team not being so talent depleted overall in terms of the roster that they should have been this low in the lottery odds. There were so many injuries. Miles Bridges not playing this year. Everybody going down for like sporadically throughout the year. LaMelo Ball and all of his various foot and ankle injuries. This team is a lot better than what they ended on paper. So getting the second overall pick, he should make an instant impact like the day he steps out there on the field, not on the field, on the court. So if he's able to, if he's going to be a day one starter, who among the current starters over the past years will be forced to move to the bench and probably take up a 6-man role? Well, the first player I think it's going to be is unfortunately PJ Washington, who, yes, I still do expect the Charlotte Hornets to re-sign in this offseason. But the reason I say it's going to be PJ and only at first is because this is going to be the final year of Gordon Hayward's big unnecessary ass contract, where he should have a lot more trade value than he's had in these previous years, where teams didn't want to commit to a somewhat injury prone advanced age player with so much money left on his contract. Now that this is the last year of his deal, he is a valuable trade piece that the Hornets could potentially move, and I expect them to move at some point throughout this season. But Gordon Hayward needs to show that he still is able to help another team, so that's why I think they will still leave him inserted as a starter to begin the season. But by or around the trade deadline, I do expect for them to trade away Gordon Hayward, allowing PJ Washington to move back into the starting lineup, and, you know, getting the process of all of these recent draft picks by the Charlotte Hornets in the starting lineup, getting that whole process back up and going, man. So my final thoughts on Brandon Miller are that his fits, like being the type of player he is, having the size he does, and being a shooter, makes him perfect alongside LaMelo Ball in terms of fit. Being a player that can catch and shoot or even get his own shot off the dribble with a talented playmaker the likes of a LaMelo Ball makes this guy even better than what he would be under the guise of his own talents, because you were playing alongside a guy that elevates other players so exponentially because he makes such good plays, such amazing passes. I expect Brandon Miller to be even better than he is now because of what I mentioned, because of LaMelo Ball and because of their fit being so perfect. Now, even the second and final thing I want to talk about before we get into Nick Smith Jr., because I don't want to make this video too long, is although I'm not sure how long Steve Clifford will be the coach of this team, I do think because Steve Clifford is so defensive-minded, I think that is going to be perfect for Brandon Miller in his rookie season. Him being somebody that takes pride, verbally admitting or I guess, boasting about himself, saying that he takes pride in the defensive side of the ball, looking up to Paul George, wanting to be a two-way player. Steve Clifford being a coach that highly encourages high-level play on the defensive side of the ball. I think that will only make Brandon Miller a better player at the end of the day. And win, lose, or draw, whether Steve Clifford is only here for one more year after the sale of the team goes through or whatever happens, I think being here for his rookie year will do wonders for Brandon Miller, and that is my final thought on the second overall pick in the 2023 NBA draft, man. So now we're going to move into Nick Smith. He was selected 27th overall in the first round by the Charlotte Hornets just a few minutes ago prior to the taping of this video. Now he is 6'5", 185 pounds from Arkansas. Now the first thing I'm going to address is what he brings to the team. Now he is a much needed shooter at the backup guard position. Over the last few years, one thing that has been lacking on the Charlotte Hornets roster at just about every position except for point guard when LaMelo Ball occupies it or when Terry Rozier is on a positive streak is shooting. They are not able to get up and get up a lot of threes and put the ball in the hole. Now what Nick Smith brings is the ability to shoot the ball at a high level, whether it be over time and what is the word, whether it be with volume or whether it just be in a limited sample. I believe that Nick Smith Jr. just being somebody known for being a shooter and his just current skill set alongside Dennis Smith Jr. as the backup point guard will serve to be a lot better of a backup tandem than what the Charlotte Hornets have had in the previous seasons. Another thing that he brings, or two other things that he brings in terms of intangibility, is he has a lot of untapped potential. This guy was the #1 player in his high school class in 2022, but he played his 1 year at Arkansas, pretty much injured the entire season. So although he was able to earn a first round draft honor, he was not even able to display all of his talents for the world to see because he was hobbled throughout the entire season. So what we are getting from him should be more than the package that we saw provided during his time in college. And also, because he slipped so far back in the first round, had he not been injured, he was expected to be a lottery pick. This being the top-ranked player in his draft class, you can only imagine that he is coming in with a very large chip on his shoulder and wanting to prove to the world that he is in fact deserving of where he got drafted. But he was deserving to be drafted a lot higher. So coming in and bringing that energy to the team, I believe will be just great for the Charlotte Hornets overall. Now, will he be on the roster full time? Now, I am going to say no, and for the reasons of that's just not how the Charlotte Hornets have operated over the last few years for their mid to late round selections. If you are drafted outside of the top 10, you are going to spend some time in the G League, whether you be Miles Bridges, Mark Williams most recently, and I expect that Nick Smith may and probably will spend a lot of time down in the G League, but I don't think that he will be one of the guys that occupies the two-way contract, because I believe that he will in fact play better than that, and he will probably take one of the players that we are going to mention in just a few moments spot on the roster, who will probably spend a lot more time in Greensboro than Nick Smith Jr. will. So with that being said, the next thing I want to say is that the drafting of Nick Smith Jr. is pretty much an open admission by the management of the Charlotte Hornets that the drafting of James Bouknight was a mistake and can be chalked up as an absolute bust. At this point, he's had 2 years to develop. He has not even shown to have any type of identity. He doesn't have any identifiable game. He doesn't have any identifiable constant impact or consistent impact when he does get time, which is very few and far between, especially with Steve Clifford, because he can't play defense. So if Nick Smith Jr. can at least be a decent defender and a consistent shooter, I believe that will probably spell the end of James Bouknight's time with the Charlotte Hornets. And at this point, I can't say that I would be upset with that decision, man. So my final thoughts on Nick Smith Jr. is that this was a steal that nobody expected to be on the board, and like that's just amazing for the Charlotte Hornets. Even if he only turns out to be a 3-and-D guy, or just a 3-and-D backup guard, you have to look at the fact that is those type of guys are so valuable throughout the league that you need more than one of those guys if you want to be contending in the league. Not to compare him saying that this is who I project him out to be, but I'm just saying if his ceiling is a 3-and-D guy, you have to look at guys like what KCP has been able to do for the Lakers, as well as the Nuggets, and guys like that, guys that provide a lot of defense but are also reliable shooters when called upon, and Nick Smith Jr. is projected to be better than that. So if he is only that still provides a plus player for this current roster, and I believe gets this team closer to the 50 win, that totem that has been so hard to climb over the years, that 50 win pedestal that we have just not been able to get to. I believe having guys like this makes it that much easier to get there, man. And if anything, the final thought that I have on this is, if this works out, this makes Mitch Kupchak and Michael Jordan look pretty damn good on the way out the door. Aside from the 2021 draft with Bouknight and Kai Jones, since Mitch Kupchak has been here, he hasn't been terrible. He's done great on draft and second round picks. The Hornets just have not had the best draft luck in terms of getting draft positioning since Mitch Kupchak has been here. But if they are able to turn, as I mentioned, that last year's first round pick, which we had two of, into Nick Smith this year, as well as hitting on Mark Williams, I would have to give them some type of kudos and say props to them on their way out the door, man. But with that being said, those are my thoughts on the Charlotte Hornets first round of drafting. If I said the Carolina Panthers at any point throughout this video, I apologize. I talk about my Panthers a lot, so if you're here and you like Panthers content, please make sure you like and subscribe and watch that too. But with that being said, man, what do you all think about these two selections for the Charlotte Hornets? Are they going to be immediate impact players? Is Brandon Miller, or was Brandon Miller, the right choice over Scoot Henderson? Are these two players the right two players? Are these, as I mentioned, immediate? But whatever you all think, leave your comments down in the comment section, man. And with that being said, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.